Hey there, guys. So I've just finished having some lessons, and I've been talking about this thing in quite a lot, quite a lot of lessons this week. And I really wanted to share this idea with you. So it's a problem that basically comes up a lot with, especially with my intermediate students, where they keep feeling like they're just repeating the same phrases over and over and over. And it's not just maybe the answer to a particular question, like when someone says, "How are you?" and you always say, "Not too bad," which is what I say. But it's where they keep saying the same particular word or the particular phrase, and they just don't have any variety. And really, they notice this especially when they're writing, because it's visually you can see it a lot more easily. And this is something I've actually found, especially with my Italian, that once I reached that sort of intermediate, moving up to the upper intermediate level, I really noticed that I just kept using the same phrase every single time, and I wanted to find a way of increasing the variety without trying to memorize 600 different words for the same idea, because it just became a bit sort of impossible, really. And that's, I think, the main hurdle that most students and most people I know sort of they hit, or the main problem that they come across is really that they have a particular word or phrase that they're trying to replace, and so they go to like the thesaurus, or they go online and they find a huge list of loads of all these other variations and different ways of saying the same thing or asking the same question, like 50 ways to say "how are you" in Italian, and which is fine, but really you're never going to, okay, not never, it's very difficult to learn all of those. And again, it's all about, for me anyway, it's about using my time in the best way. So I don't have endless time, and especially now with how my life is at the moment, I don't actually have a lot of time to study. So I don't want to be spending all of my study time memorizing all of these different phrases, and I'm not going to use them really. So my best advice for you, if you're having this same problem where you are saying the same phrase over and over, is just to find one alternative. Just one. And it sounds really easy, but the reason it's really important is if you find one alternative, learning one new phrase is actually really simple, or relatively simple. So let me give you an example from my Italian, okay? So I used to always say the phrase "penso che," which just means like "I think." And I used to say that in every single conversation, all the time, over and over. Every conversation I felt like it was the only thing I said. Every question I answered with, "Oh, well, I think, penso che, penso che, penso che." And I just got really fed up with it. And so I decided to find one alternative. And so then I put like "credo che," which is like "I believe," but same idea. So, and then I had two. And again, then I got to the point where I was saying those two too many times, that I just noticed the repetition, and it just started sounding really boring to me as the listener or as the speaker. So I imagine the person I'm talking to, they would just be getting really bored listening to me, really. And I didn't really want that. And I think that's something you kind of want to avoid, especially in writing, is that repetition, because it does just get really boring for the reader, or the listener in this case. And so then I found another one that would like "mi pare." And then, so with this particular phrase, there's quite a few different ways to say it, and I actually needed maybe 5 or 6 different ways because of how often I would say the phrase "I think." But there's other bits of vocabulary, other adjectives, other nouns, other verbs, where really I have 2, and that's enough, because I don't repeat them enough in one conversation to make it evident that I only have those 2. And thinking about it that way, if you have a conversation with 5 different people every week, those 5 people don't know if you use the same phrases with all the other people. They only know what you're using in one conversation with them. So that's really the important thing, is to remember that you don't have to use different vocabulary in every situation all the time. It's just about making sure that each individual unit of communication has enough variety that you don't feel like it's sounding boring or repetitive. So, like I start every conversation when someone says "how are you?" I say "not too bad." And that's just what I say. And really, it doesn't make a huge difference. The only time I really noticed it is when I started teaching, because my students would then meet me, and every time they spoke to me, I would say the same thing. And so that's when I really noticed that I had to make more effort to say something different. And that's the case where you have to do that. If you're speaking to different people every day and you're talking about your work and stuff like that, you don't have to worry about having 100 different synonyms for, all the different things that you're doing. It really doesn't matter. So that's really my advice for anything where you feel like your vocabulary is getting really stagnant, or that you're repeating the same phrases, or you just want a bit more variety in your speech or in your writing. It's literally just add one. And this, especially thinking about exam prep for writing, is what I always recommend to my students, is when they're preparing preparing for to answer a question, looking at the question and thinking, what are the common words or phrases that I'm going to use talking about this subject? So looking at the actual topic and thinking of vocabulary they know. And that's a really great exercise because it helps bring out a lot of vocabulary that you can use when you're writing. But then you can try and find an alternative for each of those at the very beginning, and that will very quickly give you a lot of variety, so you're not sitting there thinking, okay, how do I rephrase this so I'm not saying the same thing again? I don't want to just keep saying the meeting, the meeting, the meeting. Are there any other ways that I can say this thing, just as an example? So really, just my advice, if you want more variety, if you want to sound more interesting, you don't want to sound so boring when you're speaking a foreign language, just add one variant to all the phrases that you use and you'll instantly sound like your vocabulary is massive and you'll sound a lot more interesting to the listener. So I hope this is helpful and I hope you find it useful, and I'd love to hear how you have used it, or what you think about this idea. So put a comment below, like the video if you enjoyed it, and I can't wait to share another language tip with you. So see you next time.